before allowing me to be part of this UCAS Day, which is really exciting. I hope everyone is benefiting from it. I'm going to try and give you guys a bit of an insight into law, my journey so far, and I'm also going to be hopefully joined by my dear friend Pariti, who has qualified as a lawyer. So just a little bit of a law energizer to begin with, just to make sure you guys are listening and you guys are still active after a few hours. So I just want you guys to type true or false in the chat below. Lawyers are required to wear a wig in England and Wales. Do we think that this is true or do we think this is false? In the chat, please. Okay. So most people are saying false, which is good, but there are some people who've said true. So this is actually true and false at the same time. So there are two different types of lawyers actually in the UK. So not all lawyers need to wear wigs. Barristers wear wigs, but solicitors, which is the lawyer route that I'm trying to qualify as, I don't need to wear a wig. But if you are in court, you are required to wear a wig if you're a barrister. So that is something that we will touch base on later on in the slide. Another true or false, you have to be extroverted and argumentative to become a good lawyer. Please write true or false if you think this is true or false. Okay. So, okay. So people are saying that is false. So usually when you think of lawyers, you generally think that they have to be extroverted and argumentative, but it is true that this is false. So you do not need to be an argumentative person. You do not have to be an extrovert to be a lawyer. As long as you have social skills, you have communication skills, you're able to present your ideas properly, you can be a lawyer. And if you prefer not to advocate in court, you can be a lawyer that does not appear in court hearings, such as a solicitor. And being argumentative is actually not a great characteristic to have, actually. Being able to debate and discuss, yes, but being argumentative is a no-no. And the last of our three law energizers is becoming a lawyer takes an incredible amount of hard work and resilience. And here we have a bit of a life of a law student. Do we think this is true or do we think this is false? Yeah, this is true, guys. And for people that know me in person, they would probably say that this is true. It does take a lot of hard work and resilience to become a lawyer because there is no cut path. There is no shortcut to becoming a lawyer. You have to study a lot. You have to do a lot of reading. And that's not that it doesn't end there. You have to do a lot of extracurricular activities, readings, internships, voluntary opportunities, which we'll get into. But this is not a misconception. So the other two were misconceptions, but this one is not a misconception. This is unfortunately a fact. So before my friend Parity joins, I will just start off with my journey. So I'm currently a paralegal, and you guys might be wondering, what does a paralegal even mean? It is basically someone who's done a law degree and who is on their way to qualifying as a lawyer, but not made it yet, there yet. And my journey has been, so far, I've studied law with a year abroad at the University of Leicester. I did 1 year exchange at the University of Oslo. And then at the moment, I'm currently doing my SQE LLM master's course at the University of Law. But after graduating from the University of Leicester, I also worked in different governmental departments, such as the Crown Prosecution Service. I work with the Ministry of Justice, and at the moment, I'm working with the Government Legal Department. So what do I do as a paralegal for the Government Legal Department? So if you're wondering what the Government Legal Department is, it's basically lawyers that support the Parliament. So we act as lawyers and provide legal advice for MPs and governmental issues. And my daily duties consist of drafting certain documents, helping in the management of certain projects, organising casework, communicating and liaising with clients as well as barristers, researching cases, filing documents, and attending certain court hearings. And At the moment, just to talk a little bit about flexibility, I'm able to work in a hybrid mode. So I do 3 days in the office and I do 2 days working from home remotely. The challenges that I face in my job at the moment is that there are a lot of tight deadlines, there are a lot of court hearings, and court hearings are basically set in stone. So when you have a court hearing, there are deadlines to be met by that court hearing. And if you don't meet those deadlines, then you are pretty much insulted by the judge. So meeting those deadlines is crucial, which adds a certain factor of difficulty to my work. But there are benefits. I get to interact with amazing lawyers on a daily basis. Being surrounded by them is a constant source of motivation for me. And I'm always in different areas, different offices of work. So sometimes I'm in different barrister chambers, sometimes I'm at different court hearings, sometimes I'm within different governmental departments. So sometimes I will be in the Ministry of Defence, Ministry of Justice, court. So it really gives me an array of options. If you're wondering what the entry requirements are to study law at university, I've taken this from the UCAS website. So the average requirement for an undergraduate degree of law is an ABB at A levels or a D-star at BTEC. Like I said, this is an average, so some unis will be a lot higher than this, especially Russell Group unis, or if we're talking about Oxbridge. However, this is the general, and other unis will be lower than this, but this is the general consensus. Subjects it's useful to have studied first. As you can see here, this is from the UCAS website as well, believe it or not. There is science there and there is maths there. I think most important thing for a law degree is just to prove that you are getting those good grades. So as long as you have some essay-based subjects, you are more than welcome to pursue, I don't know, chemistry or biology A-level alongside those essay-based subjects. And that will be enough for you to hopefully get into an LLB. Now, how do I become a qualified lawyer in the UK? This is something that I don't know if I'll be able to fit into the time that we have been given, because it's very, very intense, as in there are many different routes to qualifying as a solicitor, for example, which I don't think I'll be able to cover in this Zoom in detail. But if anyone has any questions, I'm more than happy for Aristanaba to pass on my contact details and we can sort out any queries you might have. But as we spoke about in the beginning here, you can see that there are two different types of lawyers. We have a solicitor and we have a barrister. Now, as you can see, the barrister here in the image is wearing a wig because these barristers are lawyers that only appear in court hearings. So they will be the voice of the case in court, and they will not really take part in any of the casework outside of court. And solicitors, on the other hand, they will do everything pertaining to the case outside of court. So they will liaise with the clients, they will file the case, and they will take advice from the client and give it on to the barrister to present in court. Now, the qualification procedure for both of them are different, but very similar. So obviously, whether you do an A-level or a BTEC, you will start off at the top here. Then you will pursue a law degree for 3 years. If you do not pursue a law degree, don't worry, you can still get into law. You can do a GLD, so you can do a law conversion course for 1 year. And then after that, you will need to, I'm just going to skip these work experience parts because this is, this work experience part is voluntary. But after you have completed your law degree or the GDL, you can go and pursue a legal practice course, which will take you 1 to 2 years. And then you will need to train as a trainee solicitor for 2 years. So you will basically qualify in a minimum of 6 years as a solicitor in the UK. If you want to qualify as a barrister, it's a similar route. You need to do a professional training course, the bar professional training course, so the BPTC, for a year or 2, depending on your studies. Then you will move on to complete a pupillage, which will take you 1 year. So you will basically qualify as a barrister in a minimum of 5 years. If I move on then, so today we will focus more on becoming a solicitor because that's the route that I'm focused on, and that is the route that Parity has taken to qualify as a lawyer. The difference between me and Parity is she has finished the stages and she is actually admitted as a solicitor. Me, I am still in the process of becoming a solicitor. And the difference is that we have taken different routes in qualification. So Parity has taken the old route to qualifying, so the LPC route, which is probably not going to be available to many of you guys on this call today. And I have taken the SQE route. So with the SQE route, I need to take 2 exams after finishing my law degree. I need 2 years qualifying work experience, which I am currently doing as a paralegal. Then I will apply to the SRA and hopefully become a solicitor. So this is quite confusing. Like I said, I'm really sorry if I am going really fast and making some sort of confusion, but I can clarify any confusions later on. Just moving on here, what extracurricular activities, internships, or volunteer experiences do you recommend to students interested in law? Now, I can't emphasize enough how important extracurricular activities are for a law degree. This is very different to someone who wants to study maybe IT or someone who maybe wants to study engineering, because those interpersonal skills are extremely important in a law degree. You need to be able to show that you have enhanced communication skills, enhanced presentation skills, organization skills, management. You need to really prove these on another basis, on another level. So taking part in mooting and debating, taking part in student law societies, becoming campus ambassadors if you're at university. If you're not at university, don't worry about this part. Attending open days and insight days at law firms that you're interested in. Taking part in mentoring programs. I know many people on this call are probably from maybe minority ethnic backgrounds, or if you are a refugee or an asylum seeker here, there are specific mentoring programs for students coming from those backgrounds who want to qualify as a lawyer. I've listed a few mentoring programs that I can get involved in here, but they really, really help to support students and give them direct guidance from lawyers in being able to qualify as a solicitor. Taking part in legal and non-legal work experiences just to show you're a well-rounded person. Legal writing competitions, charity work, you know, if you've got any sports, arts, music, hobbies. I think they were mentioned in the personal statement workshop this morning, but those are really, really, really important. And just knowing which law firms you're interested in from before is really, really helpful. And one other thing that I would recommend is to go on LinkedIn and to really bother those people who are in positions that you're interested in. So if there is, I don't know, if you're interested in Cliff and Chance, then find a lawyer who has recently qualified there, message them on LinkedIn. They would happily give you advice and recommendations on how to qualify and come to the position that they're in. I'm just going to check if Parity has joined. She is basically a lawyer she's a legal officer in the media freedom team at the Thomson Reuters Foundation. So as a qualified lawyer, she has a lot more responsibilities and duties and tasks compared to what I would have as a paralegal, because I'm not officially allowed to sign certain legal documents, for example, but she has basic authority to sign anything off as a lawyer and manage her own case and file tasks. Let me just see if yeah, she said she will be joining. But whilst we're waiting for her to join, then I will just give general advice to students interested in pursuing a career in law. Studying law is not difficult at university. It's not that difficult, but qualifying as a lawyer is very difficult. If you are really not that passionate about becoming a lawyer, then I would say really consider your options, because once you are qualified as a lawyer, you have an increased salary, but until you qualify and until you've passed the necessary examinations and you've done the necessary training, the salary that you get will not be as high as many graduate salaries. And you have to be really resilient in your training, because after you've done your undergrad degree, after you've done your law degree, you are not a lawyer. you will still need an extra at least 3 years to qualify as a solicitor and 2 years to qualify as a barrister. So really do your research, get on LinkedIn, message a lot of people, talk to them, talk to their experiences in law, in their law firms if they're happy, because some of you might know, especially in the corporate field and the commercial field, you have to do insane hours. Some lawyers will be doing, will be working until the evening, 9-10 p.m. in the evening. So you really need to weigh out your options. If you aren't that interested in becoming a lawyer, then I would say, pursue something that is of more interest to you, because you do need a lot of resilience and a lot of determination to qualify on this route as a lawyer. And different to other routes, you really need to network in law. Maybe in other sectors, networking is not this important, but in law, you need to create a close circle of lawyers that you've engaged with, of law students that you know. Is very, very important to maintain close contact with them, because they're the people that are going to help you climb the ladder. They're the people that are going to be there to give you guidance on interviews, on applications, on test centers, etc. So you have to be very well-rounded, and we can share, if anyone wants further information, as I said, we can share specific organizations that you guys can volunteer with, or specific kind of competitions that you guys can take part in, and mentorship opportunities. And I think Fariti is here, so I will quickly go back to her slide so she can introduce herself. Welcome, Fariti. Are you able to unmute yourself?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you so much. And sorry, everyone, for making you wait. I wasn't aware that the sessions had kind of started a bit earlier than planned, but I'm sure you've been well guided through all about the law. So I'm just going to talk to you briefly about who I am, what my kind of legal journey has been like. And it's just to give you a little bit of a taste and flavor of different types of pathways and journeys that you can have in law. I very much believe that there's no one journey from law. So I'm Pariti Singh, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm originally from India. So here on this slide, you can see a little bit of me, but there's obviously like a lot more to my legal journey that I've had. So I was born and raised in India. And then I decided when I was quite young that I wanted to work in a field where I could have a positive social impact. And I wasn't quite sure what that would mean, whether that was volunteering, whether that was, serving and working with children in a teaching capacity. And then one of my mom's really good friends, he was a lawyer, and he spoke to me about law as a career where you can, if you go down the human rights path, which is what I've done. So I work in the space and field of human rights. Some of you may have heard of it. Some of you might be slightly unfamiliar with it, but essentially in the human rights world, your role is to use the law for good and to ensure that the world is a bit better, whether that's through working on issues affecting people who are vulnerable, might be ethnic minorities, or even sometimes like advocating for rights. So it can, in the human rights world, it can look and feel very different as well. So I thought that sounded really exciting, really interesting. Unlike all you bright kids who are doing all of this research before going into law, I must confess that I didn't really have a lot of research and opportunities to talk to lawyers before I went in. I just followed my gut and I decided to dive into the world of law. I'll quickly answer Ali's question. Yes, I did have to do the GDL. I will talk to you about it in just a second. So basically, I started my undergraduate law studies in India with the intention of wanting to qualify as a lawyer in India and seeing kind of where that goes. And I started working on, when I was doing my studies, issues that were affecting right to education for the girl child. That was particularly a passion of mine because I thought that there are other girls like me in India who could benefit from being in more empowering careers. But then I did my first internship, and my first internship was with the United Nations Development Program in Sri Lanka. So you can see on the slide, there's a UNDP logo in blue. And that was in Sri Lanka, like I said, and I was working there on an access to justice program, which is, I'm conscious throwing a lot of words at you, but essentially our role was to help improve the quality of judicial officers and judiciary in Sri Lanka to ensure that, there were fair ways in which decisions were being made about who went to prison or who did not. So when I worked on that, I actually realized that for me, it wasn't necessarily important to just work on Indian issues, but I wanted to actually work in a global space because human rights is applicable all over the world. And I didn't see myself as just an Indian person wanting to do Indian human rights, but I saw myself as someone who wanted to learn and work in different cultures and make a positive impact across the world. And that's really where my journey kind of took off in a way, because while my decision to go into law was very kind of intuitive, gut oriented, my decision to go into the field of human rights and to work internationally was a very conscious choice. And the path ahead of me, I knew would involve a lot of hard work and a lot of decisions. But what I can tell you that it has been really tough in parts, but it has been an immensely rewarding journey. And I've in the course of pursuing human rights, had the chance to live in Turkey, which is why you see the Turkish flag there. And you can see Koç University logo at the bottom, and the picture just above it is the Koç University campus. So I did my semester exchange there. I was more interested in learning about things like Islamic laws, Sharia laws, what the context and cultural context is like for, say, refugees, and also just kind of more generally be more familiar with what part of the world that maybe I wasn't that aware of. So that doesn't just include Turkey, but also Central Asia, because a lot of students from Central Asia were in my kind of university and came to study from Kazakhstan, Turkmenistan, and all these different countries, which I didn't know much about. So I have, in the last few years, lived and worked alongside my studies in 11 countries doing human rights work and internships. So that's what I want to share. It's a really exciting field. It's very competitive, but at the same time, immensely rewarding to be in. And then eventually I made the decision to do my master's in international law and human rights from University of Cambridge. So I moved to the UK in 2016. So that's 8 years ago that I've been here. And I qualified as a solicitor here. I wanted to become a qualified lawyer from a very prominent jurisdiction. And a lot of my faculty said, you're looking at either the United States or the UK, but having that qualification will help you become a more kind of, globally recognized lawyer. And so with that, I went on to doing the whole training contract thing. And here, maybe I can talk a bit about what I had to go through. So because I did my undergraduate law studies from India, I had to do a GDL, which is a conversion course, which was 1 year at BPP University. But my law firm, Baker McKenzie, with whom I had a training contract, sponsored it. So I didn't have to pay anything. And they also paid a stipend for that. They also paid for my LPC, which is the course you do after. So after the GDL, you are equivalent to a UK law student, essentially. And then after that, I did my 2 years of training contract and I qualified last year. So it has taken a kind of long journey, but that's because my starting point was different to you guys. I started out in India, but I have no regrets because I've had a really incredible journey and I've lived and worked in different countries, and it's enriched me not just as a lawyer, but as a person. You will also see a couple of other logos in there: Center for Study of Democracy, University of Parma. These are places that I did internship in. So that's Bulgaria and Italy, respectively, where I did more sort of legal research. So you can go into legal research as well, where you do more kind of academic outputs in human rights field. And I also took a complete detour from law, working as a management consultant at Accenture. And that was actually with the intention of saving up a little bit of money before I went into my GDL LPC studies. But I really enjoyed it because I learned about technology, project management, and all these tools are now super helpful to my current job, which is a legal officer at the Thomson Reuters Foundation. So at the Thomson Reuters Foundation, which is the charitable foundation of Reuters, the news agency, some of you may have heard of Reuters journalism, I help provide legal support to independent media and journalists who are in contexts that are vulnerable or in context where they are in exile. So what I mean by that is, in some countries, so for example, in Russia, journalists that are writing truthfully about what's happening with the war in Ukraine, they are being targeted by Putin's government and being shut down. And so my role is to help find them a place and kind of like ability to basically transition to exile journalism in Europe and help them set up basically a whole new operation in Europe, making sure that they can continue to do what they're doing, which is
Hi,
talking
Jodie.
about truth.
Sorry, I'm going to have to interrupt you. I'm really sorry. We're now on to the next profession. If you could just make your final words, and then we'll pass on to the next profession, if that's okay.
Yes, that's totally fine. And I'm really sorry about that. So essentially, that's my role. So for any of you, I'm conscious, who are interested in finding out more, please feel free to get in touch with Chamia and myself afterwards. But yes, the key takeaway, the main headline is law is open for everybody. It depends what you want to make out of it and what kind of career you see yourself going into. It is a field that demands hard work, but it's immensely rewarding. And I wish you all the best regardless of what you choose in your fields as well. Shami, I don't know if you want to add anything